Okay, time for yin. Good morning. Let's come to our mats today. And let's start with the shavasana. We'll change it so that use a prop, maybe folded blankets or a bolster if you have one, and just put that underneath the knees. So soles of the feet are going to be down in front of the bolster. You might need to scoot yourself forward, the hips, and then come on down onto your back. Bring the arms down by the sides. Extend the legs out in front of you. So we'll just start this way today. Let the toes turn out. Closing the eyes, take a deep breath in through the nose. Out through the mouth, let it go. Inhale in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Inhale in through the nose. Last time, let it go out through the mouth. This time in through the nose, fill all the way up. Slowly back out through the nose. Keep going with this breath. Breathing deeply in and deeply back out. Staying inside the body, feeling everywhere you can send the breath. Scanning the body, seeing how you're feeling today. If the body's quiet, if it's talking to you, anywhere specific. Collecting information. So that you can respond to it, take care of it. Give it the attention it needs. Starting to let go of any other distractions. Slowing down the mind to make space for your practice. And you'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Bring the hands on the body, so hands somewhere on the torso. Feeling that breath moving through you. Start to walk the feet in, so soles of the feet are on the mat. You can scoot the bolster or whatever you have in close toward the hips, so they're all the way against the hips. Then bring the arms down by the sides. See if you can reach the bolster, blankets, whatever you're using. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, slide the bolster up underneath the hips. So, not the lower back, just the hips are resting on the bolster. So, the knees were elevated before, now we're elevating the hips. Arms can go back to where they were, palms can face up. And you're in a supported bridge pose. Some slight elevation, more of a cushion underneath the hips. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Leave that left foot where it is. And you're just gently bringing it in. It's not as tight as you can go. If it bothers you to grab the top of the shin, you could interlace the fingers underneath the back of the thigh. So either one of those is okay. And just for a little bit of movement so we can give some love to the ankles and the feet, start to circle the right foot. Keep it slow. We don't want to speed up the heart rate or energy in the body. We want to keep things slow and calm. So just some slow circles with the right foot. And go the other way. Circling the foot in the opposite direction. And let that foot go. Just let it relax. You can keep the left foot where it is, or you can play with extending that left leg out in front of you. If it's too much too soon, bring the sole of the left foot to the mat. Stay there. You can keep that left leg relaxed. You don't need to push it away from you. Eyes are either softly open, so you're looking down the bridge of the nose, or completely closed. That's fine too. So we know in yin that we hold these poses a little longer. What's nice is when you take a guided practice, you don't have to keep track of time. I'll do that for you. And hopefully that allows you to be more in the moment, letting go of your sense of time, maybe feeling a sense of freedom from that. You'll start to bring the sole of the left foot back to the mat. Right foot comes to the mat, and you'll switch sides. Bring the left knee in toward the chest. Keep the right foot where it is. So maybe you grab onto the top of the left shin, back of the left thigh. See which one's more comfortable in your body. Try not to squeeze the knee in as hard as you can. I'm going to bring it in and then just leave some room there. So lots of space between that, excuse me, left knee and chest. Taking note of any differences on this side versus the first side. And if you'd like, you can start to extend that right leg forward, which will be a nice opening at the top of the right hip after having that knee in toward the chest for so long. You're at that point where the body's accepted the shape. Now the pose is starting to work. Starting to open up the hips, lower body joints. You're also getting a back bend. And start to release that left foot back down to the mat, arms down by the sides. And then see what it feels like to extend the left leg forward. So both legs are forward, hips are still elevated with the bolster, blankets, whatever you're using underneath the hips. Maybe you lift the chest up a little bit higher, getting the shoulder blades underneath you, outer upper arms are firm on the mat, legs can relax. You'll start to walk the feet in, soles of the feet to the mat, knees bent. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, slide the bolster out from underneath you. Set the hips back down onto the mat. And then roll over to your right side. Use the left hand to bring yourself up to seated. So you'll take the bolster, you'll bring it back behind you the long way. So it's back behind you. It's the long way back behind you. Have a block or two nearby. You can just set it off to the side near the hips. I'm going to put mine on this side so it's out of the way. You can still see me. And then you'll come to a cross-legged seat. So coming to a cross-legged seat, hips are down on the mat, trying to cross at mid shin. So when you look down at the legs, you're crossing as close as you can to mid shin. And instead of having the feet way back and the knees jutting forward, bring the feet forward so they're underneath the knees, toes pointing forward. Once you get the crossing of the legs, you can shift side to side to get the sit bones down underneath you. So try to keep this shape of the legs. Bolster isn't all the way up against you, it's a few inches away. You'll bring the hands back behind you, lift the chest up high. So the hands behind you will help you do that. You're arching the back, same thing we were doing before. Start to bend the elbows and then start to round the lower back. Set the rest of the spine down onto the bolster, keeping the shape of the legs. Rest the head down, arms down by the sides. So this can be this is a hip opening and a back bend again at the same time. We're just changing the shape of the legs and the support of the spine and the head. So it should feel like the thigh bones are feeling long. And with the crossing of the legs, you don't really need to do much work. They'll stay right where they are. You can bring the hands onto the rib cage. Just making sure that the ribs are even. So if one side's higher than the other, what do you need to do to level that off? Make that adjustment. Arms down by the sides, palms face up. And this is Supta Sukhasana, or recline square pose. So there are a couple ways to come out of this. The easiest way is to stay on your back. Maybe the easiest way. Stay on your back and switch the crossing of the legs, bringing the other shin in front. If that's not working, then bring the hands down by the sides, come up to seated, switch the crossing of the legs, shift side to side to make sure the sit bones are underneath you, and then come back down onto your back. You want to feel like the tail is going toward the legs, so toward the top of the mat, not back toward the head. Can cause some discomfort on the lower back when that happens. So we want that lower back to always feel long and have plenty of space. And you'll start to bring the forearms and the hands down by the sides. Lift the head up first, and then start to bring the hands in so that you can press the torso up and away from the bolster. Coming back up to seated, set the bolster off to the side, uncross the legs, bring the feet to one side, and come forward to hands and knees. So once you get to hands and knees, you want to center yourself on the mat. Take the bolster the wide way between the hands and the knees. So you have hands in front of the bolster, knees behind the bolster. Walk the hands forward so they're ahead of the shoulders. This is just a transition. Tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. So heels are reaching down toward the mat, hips are lifting up, shoulders are back behind the wrists. Feeling a little bit of a stretch here. Lift the right leg up and back. Bring the right shin forward ahead of the bolster. So set it down ahead of the bolster, right knees outside of the torso. Send this left leg back so your hips are resting on the bolster. Top of the foot can rest down on the mat. Reach the heart forward and then start to come down with the chest. So you can just rest down on the forearms. You have blocks. You could bring a block underneath the chest or the head. But as you bring the chest lower, that's where the hip opening becomes deeper. You're bringing weight onto the hip opening. Maybe you can get the forehead down. You're trying to find a comfortable place to be with your single pigeon. If for some reason your right knee's talking to you, then we should come out of it. If your right knee's silent, stay where you are. I'll give you an alternative. If your right knee's bothering you, you'll come back to downward facing dog, bring the knees down to the mat. You won't use any props. You'll just bring the props off to the side, come onto your back, soles of the feet to the mat, rest the head, right ankle, left thigh, and you're in thread the needle. So you can grab the back of the left thigh, top of the shin, or just keep the foot down on the mat. Same shape, same hip opening. You're just freeing up that right knee so that you're not putting too much weight on it. I would say single pigeon in my experience of teaching is one of the most polarizing poses. People love it or it just doesn't work in their body. So sharing that with you in case you're one of the others. Sometimes it's nice to know that, you're not the only one that pose bothers. And then there's other people that just want to stay in it for 10 minutes because it feels so good. Quick note about the back foot. The left big toe should be pointing straight back. Sometimes it goes in toward the center of the mat. You can still let the foot rest. But where that left toe points, adjust the sacral area, the lower back. It gives you a little bit more space if it's pointing straight back. And if you're in single pigeon, you'll bring the hands to the mat, lift the chest and the head up. If you have anything in front of you, like a block, set it off to the side. Tuck the back toes, lift the hips, send that right foot back to downward facing dog. You can pedal out the feet, or you can take some circles with that right knee. Sometimes that feels good. If you're on your back doing thread the needle, just rest both feet on the mat and transition to the other side once we come over to the other side with our single pigeon. So right foot comes down onto the mat if it's not there already. Lift the left leg up and back, three-legged down dog. Send that left shin forward ahead of the bolster. Left knee wider than the torso if we can. That's what keeps the hip opening. Send that right leg back, top of the foot to the mat. Reach the heart forward for a moment so you can level off the hips evenly on the bolster. And then any amount, take your time, start to lower the chest, coming into your version of single pigeon on this side, or thread the needle. And maybe single pigeon worked on the first side, but this side it's not working. Come onto your back, do thread the needle instead. What's nice about the bolster is it keeps the hips level. So sometimes in single pigeon, we start to rock over to that left hip, but we want to feel even on the hips. And you'll start to come back up if you're in single pigeon. Bring the hands down, lift the head and the chest. If you're using props like blocks, set those off to the side. Tuck the back toes, lift the hips up, get that left foot back to downward facing dog, maybe pedaling out the feet or moving that left knee around in circles, whatever's feeling better for a counter. And this time we'll bring the knees down to the mat, set the bolster off to the side and come to seated. So if you're on your back for thread the needle, come up to seated, legs out in front of you, toes up. And we'll come into a forward fold. Let's use the bolster if you have one. You can certainly do it without a bolster, but you'll take the bolster, bring it all the way up against the abdomen, reach the arms up overhead and fold forward over the legs. So hands can come down to the mat on the sides of the legs. Can let the head and the neck go. You might be close enough to rest the head on the bolster, but you maybe use a block instead. You could bring the block on top of the bolster and rest the forehead there, or two blocks. See what you're working with. All of us have a different level of comfort with forward folds. If this is bothering your lower back, you can remove the props, bend the knees, bring the chest to rest on the thighs, and clasp opposite elbows underneath the knees. Sometimes when we have the bolster on top of the legs and all the way up against the abdomen, that's a nice way to give the lower back some space, but if it's not working, skip it. We'll start to lift the head back up. Set the props off to the side. You won't need anything for the next pose. Bring the feet over to one side. You're coming forward to lying on your stomach. So lie down onto your stomach. Tops of the feet can rest down on the mat. Keep the chest lifted just enough so that you can bring this left arm out to the side. So left hand needs to be in line with the shoulder. So just take a peek, make sure it's there. If you don't have enough room to extend the arm all the way out, you can bend the elbow, bringing the fingertips to point straight forward, but elbow still in line with the shoulders. So either bent arm or extended arm. Bent arm is a deeper opening for the shoulder, but I'm recommending straight arm if you have the space. Turn the head to the right. Rest the head down onto the mat. Bring the right hand to the mat, just underneath the shoulder by the chest. And then feet can come together. So inner edges of the feet together like you have one leg. Press into the right hand. Start to roll back gently, opening up the left side shoulder and chest. So if your feet are too far forward, everything's going to come forward. You want the body in one line. So head, hips, feet in one line. It's okay if it's too much to bring the right hip on top of the left hip. They don't need to stack if it's not happening on its own. Don't force it. But there are options with the feet. So this all will all depend on where the top hip is, how far away from the mat it is. You could just keep the feet stacked if that's comfortable. Depending on where the hips are, it might feel good to have the right foot staggered in front of the left foot, and that'll bring the right hip closer to the mat. So if you're already kind of there, that might be a good place. Or you can step that right foot behind the left foot. That opens the hips a little bit more. And then the final option, you could bring the sole of the right foot to the mat behind you, bringing the knee up toward the sky. So a little bit deeper of a shoulder opening, and now you're adding the hips, but the hips are already open, so it's not a priority, only if it feels good. Head's completely rested on the mat. We don't want the neck to have to work to hold up the head while you're in this shape. And anytime you take an option, if it becomes too much at any point during the hold, then you change it. You go back a step. So don't feel like you ever have to stay where you are. And you'll start to roll back onto your stomach. Once you get there, finding center, switching sides, right arm comes out to the side, elbow in line with the shoulder. Same thing you did on the first side. So if you had a straight arm, try to get a straight arm on this side, otherwise bent arm. Look to the left, rest the right side of the head down on the mat. Left hand right by the side ribs, bring the feet together, start to roll back onto this right shoulder, keeping the head down on the mat, resting it. If it doesn't reach, then try to bridge that gap with a pillow, blanket, whatever you have lying around. You're in control of this. So you roll back onto the right shoulder in a place where it doesn't feel like you're as deep as you can go. Just part of the way in, knowing that it'll build over time. And you might naturally fall in a little deeper over time. Maybe play with the options of where to put that top foot so you get the most support. Most support meaning it helps you stay in the shape with as little effort as possible. Same thing with that left hand. You can move that around, figure out, does it need to come closer to the body, farther away from the body, so that it's still supportive, but it's not bearing too much weight. Eyes can close. And come back onto your stomach. Bring the hands to the mat outside the rib cage and bring yourself back up to hands and knees. So tabletop. Feet come over to one side and you're finding a seat with the legs out in front of you. This next one, let's have our block nearby. Bring it next to the hips. Soles of the feet to the mat. Scoot yourself forward enough so that when you lie down, you still have the mat supporting the head. Pressing into the feet, walk the feet in, so heels underneath the knees. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. Take a block, slide it underneath the hips on the lowest height. So we're elevating the hips again, but now you have a firmer surface. If you don't have a block, you can use a bolster, but a block's better. Lift the chest up. You'll get the shoulder blades underneath you. Upper arms are on the mat. Arms are on the mat. Lift one leg up. Make sure you feel even on the prop underneath you and then lift the other leg up. So chest is still lifted. This is a back bend. It's Viparita Karani. Legs and feet can be totally relaxed. Maybe circle out that left foot. I forgot to tell you guys to do that on the first side when at the very beginning. Hopefully you don't remember and this doesn't make any sense, but it's still with me. Slow circles, just the left foot. Go the other way. Let the feet relax, legs relax. Keeping the arch in the back. So there is some effort lifting the chest. Chin's away from the chest, so make sure it's not touching. Eyes can be closed if you want, or look down the bridge of the nose. So getting an inversion in, reversing the blood flow in the legs. And if ever you don't have anything to put underneath the hips, you can go up against a wall. If you have wall space, bring the hips all the way up against the wall, legs up the wall. Back is flat. That's totally fine. That's another great way to get a supported inversion in. And start to bend the knees. Bring the feet back down to the mat. Rest here in supported bridge. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, set the block off to the side, bring the hips back down to the mat. Bring the right knee in toward the chest, leave the left foot where it is. Switching sides, right foot comes down, left knee comes in. Set the left foot down to the mat. Roll over to your left side and lie on your left side. So extend the legs out behind you, bring the head to rest into the left hand, lying completely on your left side, keeping the body long. So elbow, hips, feet are all in one line as best we can. Right hand's down in front of you to keep you up. Bring this right foot forward. Maybe it just goes part of the way. Maybe you get the foot in line with the hip. It doesn't really matter. Just don't go higher than the hip with the right foot. And if it's not going as high as the hip, then just find a place where it feels easy for you. So, starting here, that bottom leg, the left leg, bend it. So it's like you're trying to bring the heel up toward the glute. Again, little effort. Don't go as far as you can go. This might be enough. You can stay here, or you can take this right hand, reach back, see if the foot and the hand connect. If it's too much, let go at any time. Don't feel like you have to hang on to the foot the whole time. And then from here, there's one other option. You could reach this left arm forward and roll the chest open. And now you're getting a twist in the spine. So gaze could be up, it could be over the right shoulder. If you get this far and it's too much to hang onto the right foot, let it go and just keep the leg bent. That might be a great place to be. And if the right foot feels like it's too high, it can go lower. So this is cat pulling its tail, is the name of this shape. And I like this pose not only because you get the twist and the opening in the bottom leg, but there's a lot of different variations of it. So we start slow, go through all the different variations so you can figure out what's the right one for you today. If you're hanging onto that bottom foot, gently release it, extending that bottom leg out to where we started. Right foot can stack on top of the left foot, bring the right arm forward, and you'll switch sides. So come back onto your stomach first, roll over to your right side, bringing the head into the hand, resting the head in the hand. Bring that left foot forward. Maybe the foot's in line with the hip. Maybe it's lower. Left hand down in front of you. Bend the bottom leg. Reach back, maybe. These are all maybes. See if you can hang on to that right foot. Stay here, or right arm can go forward and you roll the chest open, finding a twist. Gaze can stay up. You can look over the left shoulder, see what's feeling good on this side. Keep the eyes closed. Cat pulling its tail. You'll start to bring the head back to center. Gently release the foot, extending the leg underneath you. Bring the left hand over to the right, left leg on top of the right leg. Use the hands to just bring yourself up enough so you can turn around and come onto your back. So once you lie down, come onto your back. And we'll start to set up for Shavasana. So for today's Shavasana, let's take, if you have a blanket, bring a blanket underneath the head for a little bit of extra padding. And then you can take the bolster and bring that underneath the knees. So soles of the feet will go in front of the bolster, knees are elevated, similar to the way we started, but we're adding some padding underneath the head if we have it. And then make sure that the tail is going forward toward the bolster. So you might need to press into the feet, lift the hips up, shift the tail forward, bring the arms down by the sides, palms face up, toes turn out. And you start to fall into your final relaxation pose, Shavasana. Enjoy. And start to find some small movements in the hands and the feet. Walk the feet in, soles of the feet to the mat, bending the knees. You can just shoo this bolster out of the way, bring it off to the side. Roll over to your right side. Keep the head on the pillow if you're using one, or use the arm. Then using the hands, bring yourself up to a cross-legged seat. You can sit up on a prop if you like, if you're uncomfortable sitting flat on the mat. Bring the chest up, hands together in front of you. Maintain the lift of the chest as you slightly bow the head, taking a moment to yourself to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you, all living beings. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thanks so much for joining. Hope you feel better than however you came in. It's always nice to take a moment to observe how the practice has changed how you feel in your body, in your mind, your overall energy. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks.